So you believe his policies, just what he said out loud, let alone what he does if he's there again, are catastrophic, that his foreign policy that he carried out while you were there was corrupt. What is your plan for making sure he's never president?
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that they are rolling the dice on a second Trump term. There are many people, including particularly Republicans, who will support him, who think that what he did in the first term is a sure guide to how he'll behave in the second term. I think that's nonsense, because the second term, very different political environment, and therefore a different personal calculus for Donald Trump. So let's just take a couple of examples, like abortion. He was for appointing justices to reverse Roe v. Wade, which I think was the right thing to do because it was an incorrect constitutional decision. But when you come down now to the hard specifics of what does he personally feel the policy on abortion should be, just in the past few days, it's been what does he think in the morning, what does he think in the afternoon. He doesn't care about the subject of abortion. He cares about Donald Trump. And that's something that you see over and over again in his behavior.
I mean, 81% of Americans disagree with you and your position on Roe.
Well, the Constitution isn't up for a vote. There's simply nothing in the Constitution that addresses the question of abortion one way or another, which means that it was open for the political process. And when the court decided Roe, it took the issue out of the political process. That turned out to be a big mistake, and we're still fighting the animosities today in very emotional terms. If in 1973 the court had ruled there was no meaning in the Constitution that affected the question of abortion, we'd have fought it out politically back then, and it would probably be settled by now.
Well, we didn't have you here to debate abortion policy. We can do that another day. I want to understand, I mean, Sarah Longwell is running a campaign of Republicans against Donald Trump, and she said that she is, quote, obsessed with permission structures. And I wonder what role you're willing to play in terms of leading Republicans away from voting for Trump again, for something you describe as catastrophic and corrupt and dangerous.
Right. Well, my view is that neither Biden nor Trump are fit to be president.
Well, is Joe Biden corrupt and catastrophic for U.S. world foreign policy?
No, but he's not on duty 24/7, and that's a potentially...
Well, what's worse, someone who, in your view, isn't on duty, or someone who's catastrophic and corrupt?
If neither one passes the bar to be fit, there's no comparison. Neither one of them should be president.
Who are you going to vote for?
I'm going to write in somebody like I did in 2020.
You're not alarmed enough. I mean, Donald Trump hasn't ruled out pursuing you. All the things you say, if we're to believe them at good faith, why wouldn't you vote against him?
Well, I am going to vote against him. I'm going to vote for somebody other than Donald Trump. In arms control parlance, we call this a problem of incommensurables. You can't measure Biden and Trump along the same metric, but they're both unqualified.
But that's what voters are going to be asked to do. Why don't you do what voters are going to be asked to do?
I am. I'm measuring them both unfit. And that's why I'm going to vote for somebody else. I'm going to be very unhappy whichever one is elected.
You have relationships all around the country. I mean, Fiona Hill was just here, and I know you work closely with her. People around the world don't view both as an equal threat to democracy and the world order. Well,
I view both as incompetent to handle the job, and it's not even sure.
What has Biden done on foreign policy that's incompetent to handle the job?
Well, I think he's completely misjudged China. He's got the Middle East in chaos for not supporting Israel, our ally. He has mishandled the Russian...
He went there. Do you think Trump would have gone to Israel after 10/7?
It depends on whether Trump saw it in his interest to go. Biden's mishandled Ukraine. We're in a stalemate now after 2 months of war.
But Trump would give it back.
What Trump would do on any given issue at any given point, I think, is almost impossible to predict.
What would you like Republicans to do in November?
Well, I think they should not vote for Trump. Now, I understand, given arithmetic, that may mean Biden is elected. That's not going to make me happy. That may be the consequence. But I'd be happy to talk to any Republican, and I talk to many of them frequently, to say that this misplaced idea they have that Trump is better than Biden is simply inaccurate. They're both unacceptable to me.
What do you make of Liz Cheney's commitment to do everything in her power? I think she said every cell in her body will go toward making sure Trump is never elected again.
Well, I think it's a worthy effort. I hope he's not reelected.
Do you view the threat of Trump as, I mean, his celebration of Orban, was that something that you saw behind closed doors? Do you view the threat of Trumpism akin to the threat of a slide toward autocracy?
I do not believe Trump represents an existential threat to democracy. And I know that probably puts me in a minority on this network, but I think our Constitution is strong. I think our institutions are strong. I think our people are strong. Donald Trump doesn't have the capability to overthrow all those institutions. He will do enormous damage, but you have to diagnose the problem accurately. If you overstate the threat, you risk turning people off who won't believe it. If you understate the threat, you may not be prepared. I think the damage he did in his first term was largely reparable. I am very worried the damage he does in the second term may be irreparable, because once you start down this slide of the abuse of power that Trump is engaged in, it's only a matter of time before Democratic presidents do the same thing. In defense of this network, you've had 13 minutes by yourself, which is a pretty, I think, significant commitment on the part of this network to hear your views. So in the minority or not, there's an interest in understanding how people who see the world the way you do are looking at their choices in the election. And what I'm just trying to square is the urgency and the fervor of your warnings and what you say you're going to do. And again, voting can be private, so I appreciate you disclosing what you're going to do in the first place. But how do you look at maligning and saying you're maligning the press simply so that no one believes what they see or hear? They only believe, as Trump said, what he tells them to believe. How do you align him wanting to end the American tradition of a peaceful transfer of power? How can you say that those aren't autocratic tools from the toolkit? Well, if he could get away with it. He did. He's no longer president. He failed to steal the election. Well, he plans to do it again. He's having an election. Well, I mean, he couldn't steal the elelections when he was sitting in the Oval Office. I think he's less likely to be able to do it. But that's only because there were people around him who didn't let him. And you're telling is that none of those people would be there. I appreciate that you're even here. You don't have to be here, and I appreciate your time. You've been sort of helping us try to understand this for 15 minutes. But how do you square your warnings about what he'd do in a second term with your confidence that it wouldn't be a slide toward autocracy? I'm not confident that the dangers of what he would do would end up in permanent damage. But I am confident that the Republic is stronger than Donald Trump. If it's not, then the whole experiment has been a failure. You know, when the Roman Republic fell, it took a Julius Caesar to do it. I didn't know Julius Caesar, but I tell you, Donald Trump is no Julius Caesar, nor was there before him the Pompeys and the Sullas and the Catalines that undermined the Republic, the Roman Republic. We are much stronger than that. And I think when people overstate the case against Trump, they turn off potentially persuadable voters. And push them back. Do you think Liz Cheney does that? Do you think Liz Cheney overstates the case against Trump? She says that if he's reelected, he won't leave. I think that's wrong. What makes he didn't leave last time with people like... He did leave. He didn't want to leave. Oh, no, Joe Biden doesn't want to leave either. Well, there's never been, again, comparing the two, no one has ever refused to leave. No one has ever refused to concede. He still won't say that he lost the election fair and square. That has radicalized a segment of the population. You know more about radicalization than I do. It's dangerous. It is not existential. Is it not existential if the rule of law is under threat by a former American president? Not if people stand up to defend it. Well, what would tip it toward existential in your view? I think you'd have to have much more of the appearance of what happened in Nazi Germany before Hitler came to power. I don't see mobs of people supporting Trump. I think those in the Republican... Where were you on January 6th? What did you watch? It was a riot. If you ask a lot of Republicans, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think it's very high. They are gritting their teeth to vote for Trump. Why? I regard that as a mistake. But it's not that they're enthusiastic about Donald Trump. They fear Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's not unreasonable for them to do that. What's unreasonable is that we weren't able in the Republican Party to find a challenger who could beat him, notwithstanding he only had about 30 to 35% of the Republican Party. Yeah, he does go into this significantly weaker. Do you worry about being on the wrong side of Trump? I couldn't care less. Look, I think a lot of people are vulnerable. I'm not in any more special position than anybody else. But, you know, if it's a fight to preserve the Constitution, that's what we're here for. What do you make of Trump running as someone who, for the first time in our history, his own vice president won't support? I think it shows that within the Republican Party, his support is a lot weaker than people think. And it's the kind of tragedy for the country that 70, 80% say they didn't want a rematch of 2020, and yet that's what we're going to have. It is immensely valuable for us to understand how you see things. I appreciate you taking almost 20 minutes of our question.